Hey guys, Dan here. Welcome to Dan Reviews It, and this is a movie review for the Netflix original film that has just premiered and broken all these Netflix records. It's called Murder Mystery. We don't do a lot of movie reviews on this channel anymore, just because I don't really get out in time to see them like opening weekend or anything like that. But of course, with the Netflix stuff, no need to sort of rush out and see it because you can watch it at home and it's just lovely. And turns out that's what a lot of people did with this new Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston movie called Murder Mystery. So Netflix is like famous for not really releasing a lot of data on their movies or TV shows for that matter, and like how many streams they got, etc., etc. But every so often they will give us, some sort of indication or specific number of how many have streamed the movie. So, Murder Mystery, before I get to the review, let me just tell you, has, broken all these records. Previously, their biggest movie for a 1 week, tenure, like the first week of premiere, was Bird Box, and that got 45 million people watching the first week. There was a Ben Affleck one earlier this year that did very well as well. It had 52 million subscribers watching it, but I think that was in the first month. I don't think that was in the first week. But Bird Box was like huge, obviously. We remember that with Sandra Bullock. But this one is what they're calling their biggest premiere weekend. Right, because at the box office, a movie comes out typically on a Friday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that counts as the premiere weekend. So Netflix put this movie on Friday, and then at the end of Sunday tallied up, everything. And it had somewhere between 30 and 31 million accounts that watched this movie. Now, that's worldwide, but some 17 million of that came from the United States and Canada. So Forbes magazine, which of course does, financial kind of stuff, broke it down, and the stats were something to the effect of, okay, well, at the $9 average ticket price in the country, which to me is crazy because I don't know. I mean, I work at a second run theater. I don't know if that kind of ticket counts because our tickets are $3, but, obviously if you go to, big chain, it's like $11 or $12 typically for an evening show, but I guess the average of all the tickets in America are $9, and Forbes figured out that, okay, if everybody in the U.S. and Canada, that every account that streamed this movie, assuming only one person per account watched it, then it would have made about $120 million just in its opening weekend. So obviously, this is a huge deal. Netflix put Sandler on a 4-movie deal back in 2014, and then renewed it for another 4 movies in 2017. And this is, I think, the first of those 4. It might be the second. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it considers a Sandler movie, because Sandler, usually it's with his production company, Happy Madison, but there was one, the Meyerowitz Stories, that he starred in, but it wasn't part of his, it wasn't through Happy Madison, so I'm not sure what they count that as. But anyway, this is part of the second set of 4 movies, and it clearly, people sitting at home watching this movie clearly ate into the box office that weekend, because Men in Black International only debuted to 30 million. They were anticipating like 40 plus on that. And then Shaft, the other, big release last week, they were hoping for like, 15, 20 million. Didn't even crack 10 million. So obviously, part of that is due to people deciding, well, I'm just going to sit at home and watch Netflix. It's free. I'm already paying for Netflix, so I'm going to watch it for free. And what's interesting is, and the Forbes article pointed this out too, there's no real way to determine, okay, number one, how many people watched the movie, because of course they're saying, so many million accounts watched it, but who's to say if there was one person or a family of 5 watching the movie? And number two, Netflix deems anybody that watched 70% of the film or more counts as a watch. And that's okay, that makes sense. but it doesn't account for automatic starts, because of course, like, Netflix will just, once you're done watching something, it'll put something else on. So it doesn't account for things like that, or doesn't account for, people, putting it on and then 10 minutes into it, taking a phone call, walking away, and not actually watching it. But it doesn't even matter, really. The point is, it's huge. And it's probably eating into the box office, things like this. So anyway, so that's sort of the background. That's why I said, I haven't done a lot of movie reviews lately. I did the Ted Bundy movie that Netflix did, about a month ago with Zac Efron. But I thought, this movie is, it's newsworthy. It's a huge, I don't know if it's a huge hit, but I guess it is. It's a huge movie for Netflix, and I think it's sort of, I don't know, a sign of the changing times within the industry. So I think that's interesting enough in itself. But that being said, I've seen all of these other Sandler movies, and they're all pretty terrible. I try to watch, like, the major Netflix movies. They put out so many that it's hard to even say, like, okay, well, I watch all of them, or even I watch half of them. But I watch, the main ones, or just anything that kind of piques my interest. So in 2018, I probably watched about 10 or 12 of them. And actually, the best comedy I saw last year was a Netflix original movie, and that was Sierra Burgess is a Loser. I thought that was very well done, very funny, and very cute. Comedies at the box office have not enthralled me lately. There were a couple last year that I liked. I really liked Game Night. I thought Tag was pretty good. But, Life at the Party and Blockers and, I Feel Pretty, they just, largely missed the mark for me. So I think that's what we're seeing in the industry as a whole with these comedies. Like Late Night, which is the Emma Thompson, Mindy Kaling movie, looks very funny. It's getting really good reviews, but it's struggling at the box office. Why? Because a comedy, for the most part, I think, is not something that people need to rush out and see on the big screen. That's why most of the movies that do very well lately are, superhero, action, big animation movies like Toy Story 4, or event movies like Rocket Man, or, the Aladdin live action. So comedies are struggling a bit, and I think, Netflix may be one of the reasons why, when you can see so many comedies on there, and especially with the bigger stars attached to them. So let's talk about the Sandler Netflix filmography, I guess, on the whole, before we get into the actual movie Murder Mystery. So the first one was Ridiculous Six, which, back when that came out, I was still doing Film Fanatics, which was our weekly movie review show with my friends Justin and Joe. And, that we ended that show about 2.5 years ago by this point, almost 3 years ago. So it's, these Sandler movies have been on Netflix for a while. Like I said, he signed the first deal in 2014. So Ridiculous Six was horrible, terrible movie. It has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I'm certainly not the only one in that camp. And then the other ones I thought were a little bit better, but not much. You had The Do-Over, which was the one with Chris Rock. And then there was a David Spade one, too. What was the name of that? No, that was The Do-Over. I'm sorry. That was The Do-Over. The Week Of was the one with Chris Rock, where it's a week in the lives of their kids, about to get married. Sandy Wexler, I thought, was not good. And then the Meyerowitz stories, again, not really, I'm not sure where that falls into the Sandler Netflix camp, whether that's, counts for his deal or not, since it's not through his production company. But I thought that was better, certainly, than these other movies I'm mentioning, but still not great. So Murder Mystery reteams Sandler with Jennifer Aniston. They started Just Go With It together something like 7 or 8 years ago. I think it was 2011. I think the thing that I find with Sandler lately, anyway, is that his best movies seem to be, at least the comedies. I think his dramas are, on the whole, better than his comedies anyway. But his comedies seem to be best when he is paired with someone that he has chemistry with and someone that we've seen him before with in enjoyable films. Like Drew Barrymore's obviously the one that comes to mind first. They did The Wedding Singer and then 50 First Dates. And then even Blended. I would say Blended is probably the best Sandler movie of the last, I don't know, 10 years maybe. You know, and then that sort of separates them. And I guess there's sort of more romance movies when he was with Drew Barrymore, as opposed to like buddy flicks where he's just hanging out with his pals, like the Grown Ups movies or like Pixels, that kind of stuff. So and really, boy, Sandler, I used to love him so much. But of course, I was a lot younger. You know, the target demo for these movies like Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore and Big Daddy and stuff. I mean, the target demo for that is like teenage boys, you know. And Billy Madison came out when I was in high school. Happy Gilmore when I was in college. You know, Wedding Singer when I was in college. So, you know, I have those sort of attachments to him. And then I think it's a combination of both the older I got and the older Sandler got. The movies just weren't there. You know, it was like Don't Mess with the Zohan and Chuck and Larry and trying to think of all of the like really bad ones. Zohan might be one of the worst, but like what's Jack and Jill, where he plays his own sister, like that's horrible. That's definitely up there as one of the worst. God, Chuck and Larry's so bad too, though. But anyway, there's a whole like grouping of those, you know, that era Sandler movie, and to me, that's what a lot of the more recent stuff is. Like, you know, the Grown Ups movies. It's just, you know, let's hang out with my buddies, you know, Kevin James and Chris Rock and Spade and Schneider. It's like, but there's no jokes. It's just like them sort of ribbing each other. So here we have him and Aniston reteaming, and I don't remember Just Go With It all that well. I mean, I saw it. I looked back at my grade for it, and I gave it a C+. So, alright, he's more of an average Sandler at that time. I mean, I remember thinking it was okay or whatever. So, these guys play a married couple who have been married like 15 or 16 years, have never taken their honeymoon. She's a hairdresser, he's a cop. You know, lives are kind of static. It's very standard Sandler setup kind of stuff. So, on their anniversary, he sort of fails to get her something good, so he surprises her with this, you know, trip. And then on the plane, you know, they meet this very interesting gentleman who's rich, and he invites them on his family yacht, and this and that and the other thing, and the whole family's there, and then the family patriarch gets murdered. You know, and Aniston is a murder mystery buff. You know, she reads all the books, and then Sandler's, you know, a cop, so he's, you know, he's hip to, you know, solving crimes and stuff like that. So the two team up and are also suspects because they were in the room when the murder happened. So that's the general plot of this movie. Very average plot-wise, you know, for a Sandler movie. Nothing too deep. And I think that's why a movie like this works on Netflix. Look, if this was in a theater, of course it wouldn't have made $120 million opening weekend. That is ridiculous. Would it have made half of that? Of course not. You know, because people are willing to sit on their couch and watch it, you know, on their TV, or sit on in their computer desk and watch it on a laptop or whatever, or sit in bed, you know, watch it, as opposed to getting dressed up and going out to the theater and spending, you know, $10 a ticket and buying the concessions and blah, blah, blah. And this is why Netflix was smart to do this with somebody like Sandler, whose movies are, I think, best enjoyed just hanging around, you know, or as background noise, or as, you know, whatever. These are not deep movies. They're not, you know, resetting the world here. And I think that works in Netflix's favor. So the movie itself is enjoyable enough. You know, I don't think it needs to light the world on fire. I think it just needs to be serviceable as free entertainment. And it is that. I think Sandler and Aniston have good chemistry. I like Jennifer Aniston on the whole. I mean, I'm a huge Friends fan, but even just her movie career, I mean, she usually plays the, or at least as her career started in film, she played sort of the wife or the girlfriend character, in things like Rockstar and Office Space and Bruce Almighty. And then, as we moved in the last, like, maybe 7 or 8 years, we see, okay, no, she's actually got great comedy chops, especially for an R-rated movie, because you got We're the Millers and Horrible Bosses. And so her and Sandler have been friends a while, I guess. And so the chemistry is there. The two really do seem like they've been a married couple for a while in a slightly stale marriage. They play the parts fine. And there are a few laughs in this movie, I have to admit. There's a lot of real dumb Sandler-type humor in it. But, I think the good thing about having an Aniston in the female lead role as opposed to, some of his, like Penelope Cruz or whatever, or Salma Hayek, or who I forget who it is in I hate the Grown Ups movies so much. I'm not even sure if that's his wife in those movies or if that's one of the other guys, to be honest. I don't remember. But anyway, Sandler always pairs himself with these, like, super hot babes, and that's fine. I think Eva Mendes was in one of them. That might have been Grown Ups as well. I don't know. But, Aniston has great comedic timing, and she is a good actress in her own right. So, when you team her with a Sandler, much like Drew Barrymore, the chemistry's there. There's several scenes where they're, sort of talking over each other, but it's played, timing-wise, it's played very well. So I thought some of those scenes were good. In terms of the plot and the murder mystery portion of it, it's okay. Again, it's serviceable, it's average, it's enjoyable enough for what it needs to be. There's no huge revelations with the characters. Sandler is the typical, schlubby, oh, I'm a bad father, I'm a bad husband kind of thing. He's doing that whole bit. I don't think the guy has great range. I do think some of his dramatic work is solid. Reign Over Me is a particular favorite if you have not seen that with him and Don Cheadle. But, comedy-wise, I mean, he always does the same thing. His movies kind of always do the same thing. So what sets each one apart is sort of that female co-lead. And Aniston, I think, brings it to the table pretty well. And look, she's not really reinventing the wheel either. Is this role any different than some of her other, like, action comedies? Like The Bounty Hunter comes to mind with Gerard Butler. No, she's not reinventing the wheel. She's not reinventing herself. It's not like, oh my God, I can't believe she did this performance. But look, it is absolutely serviceable, And of course, that's not what you want in a movie. You want, this is amazing, this is great. But for free entertainment, it's fine, So, no, I did definitely get a few laughs from it. Luke Evans plays the man that they meet on the plane. He plays sort of an integral role. And it's your classic, murder mystery. One by one, people start dying off as we're getting closer and closer to figuring out who done it. And, it's sort of, I think it wants to be smarter than it is about the whole, like, let's sort of parody murder mysteries by doing one. I certainly think there's better things in that genre, like the Rebel Wilson movie Isn't It Romantic from earlier this year. Sort of, it was a rom-com, but it also skewered all the rom-com cliches. I thought, that did a good job of that. So this is sort of that. Like, it's a murder mystery, but it's also poking fun at murder mysteries. But it's nothing that hasn't been done, before and better. But, did I enjoy it? I gotta say, I kind of did. I mean, in terms of the recent Sandler output, it is sadly among the best. And I say sadly because, this is a far cry from the heyday of like 50 First Dates, and Big Daddy is one I've always liked. Wedding Singer again, I'll mention that. Mr. Deeds, I think that's a decently good movie. The interesting thing about this is, other than Aniston, who he's been paired with before, obviously, there's none of the Sandler regulars. Thinking about all these movies that I'm mentioning, it's like, you always see certain people pop up, but there's no Steve Buscemi in this movie. There's no Rob Schneider. There's no Turturro. It's just Sandler and Aniston, and then a whole host of, like, other people that aren't in all of his movies. I think that helps, too. I think it's not just like, oh, cool, it's Sandler and Spade again. And look, I like David Spade, but the script has to be there. It can't just be about two buddies hanging out. This, of course, does have the famous Sandler trope of basically just going somewhere, some nice location for a free, vacation. Blended, they did that, and a lot of, grown-ups movies, they did that, where Sandler wants to take a vacation, so he picks a place, and then it's like, oh, let's do a movie here, and then he finds a script. So there's that, but because his regular, like, buddies aren't around much more than a lot of his other movies, I felt like this was less, hey, we're having a lot more fun shooting this movie than you are watching it, and more, we actually put a little effort into this script, and it's, it's not just, hey, look at us having fun, and maybe that's more of the theme to, Grown-Ups, the basic plot is the guy's having fun, Blended, sort of the same thing. It's like, oh, let's go on a vacation together and join our families and all that stuff. This was obviously a little more action heavy, there's a cool car chase scene that's okay. But that's the thing. Everything about this movie is okay. Nothing's great, nothing's amazing, but nothing's like that horrible either. And for a Sandler movie, that's pretty good, to be honest, So I guess I'll wrap it up there. I mean, rather than repeating myself again. But bottom line is, it is nice that his whole normal crew isn't around, because it feels like you're sort of in on the joke, and you're more of a, I don't know, it's just more fun to watch than looking at him and his buddies in these tropical locations and saying, oh, looks like they're having a great time. You're actually sort of having a good time watching the movie too. So with that, I'm gonna leave it with a C+. I think it's about on par with like a Blended. If you enjoyed that movie with Drew Barrymore, that's probably the best Sandler has to offer the last like decade or so. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, before Blended, other than his dramatic work, it was probably 50 First Dates that was the last like really good one, and that would be like way higher echelon than a C+. That was before I was grading movies, but I'd probably give that like a B+, something in that range. But this was serviceable. If you're looking for something to kill an hour and a half, you could do far worse. Literally any Sandler movie on Netflix, as an original, would be worse than this. So, yeah. So there you go. It's okay. And for Sandler, okay is pretty much top notch anymore, I would think. So that's it for for this episode of Dan Reviews, and I hope you enjoyed the review. I know I don't do a lot of movies anymore, but I would love to maybe get more into the Netflix stuff, just because it's so easy, and it's so popular. I mean, everybody's watching it, as these numbers have attested to. So maybe the more that come out, I'll try and get on those a little sooner, like I did with the Zac Efron one and with this one. So but enjoy all the other cool stuff on my channel. We're doing Frasier Fridays, about 2 of those a month. It's not every Friday, but about 2 episodes a month of that are popping up. We've done a couple of food reviews with Merlin, the Disney movies. I'm trying to dive into all of that. It is difficult because there's so many. But we've done a few of those already and hope to get some more up soon. And that's about it. I guess come the fall, we'll do the Connors again, reviews of that. But that's it. We've hit 300 subscribers, so I can't thank you guys enough for that. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. And, tell a friend and get him or her on board, too. That'd be awesome. Check us out on Facebook, too, which is just Dan Reviews It. You can search for that on Facebook and find us there. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.